Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a look inside one of America's most talked about secret societies, Skull and Bones at Yale University.
That's right. It's a topic that really sparks curiosity.
Absolutely. And for listeners like you who want to get past the myths and really understand things, that's what we're doing today. We're digging into the history, the members, the rumors, the facts.
Exactly. We've looked at historical records, factual analyses. The goal is to piece together what we actually know about Skull and Bones, separating that from, all the speculation out there.
So our mission for this deep dive, get the key info on its origins, its purpose, who gets in, what they actually do, their influence, and where things stand now.
Let's jump in.
Okay, origins. It got started way back in 1832, right? At Yale in New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah, founded by two guys, William Huntington Russell and Alphonso Taft.
And it wasn't just out of the blue, was it? There was some context there.
Right. Apparently, it grew out of a fight, basically. A dispute among Yale's debating clubs about who was getting the Phi Beta Kappa awards.
Interesting. So it's kind of like an alternative elite group from the get-go.
It seems that way. Like they wanted their own space to recognize certain students, maybe not just based on pure academics. It suggests they were looking for a different kind of elite status.
And they even called it the Brotherhood of Death. That sounds pretty intense. Set the tone immediately.
It definitely does. And yeah, this was a time when college fraternities were becoming popular across America.
But Bones seems to have set itself apart pretty quickly.
Oh, absolutely. Mostly through just extreme secrecy and being incredibly selective about who they let in, much more so than other groups at the time.
And the founder's exact reasons, still a bit hazy.
Yeah, the sources suggest Russell and Taft's specific motivations are kind of lost to history, or at least deliberately kept quiet. That secrecy was baked in from the start.
Which leads us right into its purpose. If it's so secret, how do we know what it's actually for? They don't exactly have a public mission statement.
No, definitely not. But based on historical accounts and how it operates, it functions primarily as a social hub, like a very exclusive networking group for Yale seniors.
So fostering connections among people they think are going places.
Pretty much. Think about Tap Day, that tradition they've had since 1879, where they select 15 juniors. It really highlights that focus on identifying potential leaders early on.
It's not just about hanging out senior year then. It's about building a network for later life.
That seems to be the core idea. And having places like the Tomb, their headquarters, and Deer Island, that retreat spot, it's all geared towards members getting together, keeping those bonds strong long after graduation.
One source said it's ostensibly dedicated to forging young men, and now women, into leaders. That word ostensibly feels important there.
It really does. Because while leadership might be the stated goal, the underlying function appears to be creating these incredibly tight bonds between people who are expected to become influential. It's about building that lifelong network.
Okay, let's talk about who gets into this network. It's always been Yale seniors, 15 tapped each spring.
Right. And the criteria, historically at least, leaned heavily towards campus leaders. The football captain, the editor of the Yale Daily News, heads of major student groups.
And for a long time, it was a very specific demographic, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Sources are clear on that. Until the 1960s, it was pretty much exclusively white Protestant men, which, reflected Yale and the broader power structures of the time.
But that's changed quite a bit.
It has. There were some major milestones. The first Black member in 1965, women were finally admitted in 1992, which was apparently quite controversial within the society itself.
And more recently?
Even more diversification. We saw reports of the first entirely non-white class in 2020. And interestingly, the 2021 class was noted for supposedly excluding conservatives, leaning more towards progressive activists.
So it's evolving, but still incredibly selective.
Absolutely. Still focused on the elite of the elite, as one source puts it. Looking for academic achievement, leadership potential, maybe personal connections still play a role. The current members approach the juniors they want to tap. It's considered a huge honor.
Right, which brings us to the rituals and practices. This is where a lot of the mystery comes in. What do we actually know?
Well, we know about some traditions from historical accounts and some alumni who've spoken, though that's rare. There's crooking.
It's the stealing keepsakes thing.
Yeah, apparently from other Yale societies or campus spots. And then you get the wilder stories, like them having Geronimo's skull or Pancho Villa's skull.
Those are unverified, right?
Totally unverified. More like campus legends, it seems. What is documented is the Deer Island retreat.
The annual getaway.
Yeah, a week-long trip up on the St. Lawrence River. Sources say it's for bonding, recreation, catered meals, a real chance to solidify those connections.
And the nicknames. That's a confirmed thing.
Yes, seems so. Each member gets a unique nickname, often drawn from like mythology or literature. George H.W. Bush was supposedly Magog. George Bundy was Odin.
Adds to the mystique. What about this worship of Eulogia, a fictional goddess?
Apparently so. Homage to a goddess of eloquence as part of their ceremonies. And then there's the number 322 on their emblem.
Right. What's the deal with that?
Lots of theories. Maybe the year Demosthenes died, 322 BCE, maybe connected to the Lamian War. Some even link it to a specific Freemason lodge number, but nobody knows for sure.
And the really secret stuff, like initiation rites. People talk about lying in coffins and sharing secrets.
That kind of detail remains speculative because the members just don't talk. That culture of silence is incredibly strong, even decades after they graduate. The secrecy itself is almost a core practice.
Okay, let's picture where this all happens. The tomb, 64 High Street, New Haven.
Yep, the famous windowless brownstone building, built in stages starting back in 1856.
It looks imposing, that Egyptodoric style, right?
Exactly. Sort of a mix of Egyptian and Greek influences. It definitely sends a message of keep out. It's got an enclosed courtyard, too. Even who exactly designed it is a bit uncertain. Maybe Alexander Jackson Davis or Henry Austin.
And they also own Deer Island, that retreat we mentioned.
Right, up on the St. Lawrence River. It's got facilities for recreation, providing that separate space for members.
So the tomb is their main meeting place on campus.
That's the hub. What's actually inside, beyond maybe some meeting rooms and ceremonial spaces? Well, that's still mostly guesswork for outsiders.
Okay, let's pivot to influence. This is a big part of the fascination, isn't it? The sheer number of powerful people who are members.
It's undeniable. You've got 3 U.S. presidents, William Howard Taft, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush.
And John Kerry, Secretary of State presidential candidate.
Yep. Prescott Bush, George H.W.'s father, a senator. Henry Stimson, Secretary of War and State. W. Averell Harriman, the diplomat. Potter Stewart, Supreme Court Justice.
Titans of finance, too, like Stephen Schwartzman of Blackstone. Media figures like Henry Luce, founder of Time magazine. Intellectuals like William F. Buckley Jr. The list is impressive.
It really is. As of around 2015, there was something like 2,600 living alumni, many in very significant positions across government, finance, culture.
But here's the question. Does Bones make them successful, or does it just pick people who were already on track for success? Yale itself attracts ambitious people.
That's the crucial point, isn't it? It's hard to untangle. Being tapped is certainly a mark of recognition at Yale, and the network undoubtedly helps. It likely amplifies opportunities and provides connections.
Right, so it greases the wheels, maybe.
Right.
But the claims that they secretly control the world.
That falls firmly into speculation and conspiracy theory territory. There's no credible evidence for that kind of overarching control. The network is influential, yes, but controlling global affairs, that seems like a stretch based on the facts we have.
What about links to other secret societies? You hear connections thrown around, like the Freemasons or the Illuminati?
Yeah, those rumors pop up a lot, often centered around that number 322 again, maybe linking it to a specific Masonic lodge, or theories that Bones is like a branch of the Illuminati or heavily influences the CIA.
But is there anything solid there?
Honestly, no. Our sources indicate there's no verifiable evidence supporting these connections. It really seems to function as its own distinct Yale-centric organization.
Not part of some bigger, shadowy network.
Doesn't look like it. Yale has other secret societies, of course, like Scroll and Key or Wolf's Head, but Skull and Bones is consistently described as the oldest and the most impenetrable.
So fast forward to today, 2025. Is it still active? Still doing its thing?
Yes, very much so. Still tapping 15 juniors every spring on tap day.
And it has changed, as we discussed with membership.
Definitely. It's had to adapt, especially facing criticism about its elitist, exclusionary past, bringing in Black members, gay members, women. Those are huge shifts.
And the recent classes showing more diversity, maybe even a progressive tilt.
That seems to be the trend reported in recent years. The 2020 class being entirely non-white. The 2021 class reportedly excluding conservatives. It suggests the society is reflecting or maybe even reacting to broader changes at Yale and in society.
And it's financially stable.
Apparently so. Reports mention an endowment of around $17 million as of 2024. So it's still well-funded and active, holding retreats, keeping the network going.
Okay, so when we step back and look at everything,
Yeah.
There's a lot we actually do know from reliable sources, right?
Absolutely. We have historical records, published membership lists up until the early 70s, accounts from researchers, and even some alumni, reliable sources like Britannica and Wikipedia that synthesize information. We know about traditions like crooking and the Deer Island retreats.
That gives us a pretty solid foundation to talk about its history and its impact.
For sure. But then there's the other side. The secrecy means the internal rituals, the exact discussions they have, the full extent of its influence.
Yeah.
That stuff stays hidden.
And that's where the speculation comes in, the skulls, the controlling the world theories.
Exactly, those lack evidence. It's really important to distinguish between the verifiable facts and the persistent myths or conspiracy theories that swirl around it.
So to wrap this up, Skull and Bones, it's got this long, fascinating history at Yale. It clearly functions as a powerful network for some very influential people, and it thrives on this blend of known facts and deliberate mystery.
That sums it up well. You have the documented history, the prominent alumni, the established traditions, and then you have the unanswered questions fueled by that intense secrecy. It forces you to think critically about the information you encounter.
It really does. And maybe a final thought for our listeners to ponder. When you see the kind of influence wielded by members of such an exclusive, secretive group,
Yeah.
what does that tell us about how power and connections might work in our society?
That's the lingering question, isn't it? What's the real significance of these closed networks in shaping politics, business, culture? And how much can we truly know when secrecy is such a core part of their identity? It's that ongoing tension between private association and public impact, something to definitely think about.